There are so many other junior developers out there with the same skills or more skills than I have. It definitely was my passion for education, definitely was the skills that I brought from teaching. I think most of our interview we talked about that as opposed to the technical stuff. So I'm certain that's why I got the position and not my technical skills.
Welcome to the Junior Jobs Podcast, where we interview recently hired junior developers to give you actionable job search advice relevant to today's job market. Today's interview is with Rebecka Hendricks, a former high school math teacher who recently got her first job as a software engineer. First, a shout out to today's sponsor, Algolab. Their algorithms course is designed to empower you with the skills you need to excel in coding interviews, with over 50 expertly crafted videos breaking down complex concepts into digestible, easy to understand modules. And this week, they're offering our listeners 25% off if you use the link in the show notes. So check it out to get started. All right, Rebecka, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us.
Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you. So as I said earlier, you come from a teaching background, so let's start there. Can you tell me more about what made you decide to get into software development?
Sure, absolutely. So I was a teacher for 15 years. So this was kind of a difficult decision for me. I was not just a let's try teaching. No, not for me. I was kind of a lifetime educator. Like that was part of my identity was that I was an educator as a teacher. And I really loved a lot of the parts of it, but I got to a point, and there are a lot of reasons for this, but I think my main reason is that I got to a point where I just felt there was nowhere to go other than to leadership roles. I started a leadership master's. I got about halfway through it and realized, I really just don't want to do this. And I was kind of, I guess I want to say bored with the whole profession. There was just really nowhere to go. And software development was really appealing to me because I had recently had a kid and I was also looking for like a better work life balance as well. And so that was very appealing about software development. I was a math teacher. And so a lot of, just logic appealed to me and solving problems appealed to me as well. And with software development, there's always something else to learn. You never reach a point where nope, I know it all, I'm done. There's nothing else to learn. I've mastered my craft. There's always more to learn. And so that was, I think, the biggest thing that was appealing to me and why I wanted to leave teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever get to a point where you feel like you know everything, please let me know because I'm still working on that myself. And the great thing about software engineering, as you mentioned, right, it's not just learning everything day to day, but the career path. There are many career paths available to you if you want to go hyper individual contributor into a staff or principal engineering role. You can go into engineering management. You can go into architecture. You can go into consulting. There are a lot of different ways you can take the career. So that definitely makes sense. So from your teaching background as a software engineer now, is there anything from your teaching background, any skills that you developed that you think are helping you be successful now in your new role?
I think there are a ton of things. However, I think some of the main skills that I've been able to put to use are time management. As a teacher, you get really good at that, kind of filling, every 10 or 15-minute block with something productive because, as a teacher, there are just endless things to do. You never get the job done. You just are constantly just trying to get as much done as you can and filling the time to be as productive as you can. And so time management, like self monitoring, making sure I'm able to manage my time properly. But then the second one, and I think this is probably the most important, is communication skills. Especially when working remotely, you need communication skills to really understand what is being asked of you, to be able to ask great questions, to be able to keep people updated on your process, to be able to demonstrate what you have done. I mean, it's just a big skill that I think is maybe overlooked in software development. It's beyond the technical skills, but that I think has helped me a lot. in my
Yeah, I
current role.
think that's a great example. I think about my own transition into software development coming from school. It's a big change. In
Mhm.
school, the assignments are clear.
Mhm.
There is a test key that you're evaluated against. Your teacher knows the answer. All of that is not true for software development, right? I found that even times or oftentimes the deadlines are not clear as well.
Mhm.
And as long as I can push back, I can ask questions, I can co-create a solution with my manager, and we can come to a resolution together.
Mhm.
So let's talk about your job search now. I see that you now work for McGraw Hill. So I'm curious, how did you find and how did you get that job?
So I went to the Turing School of Software and Development. And part of this was just me deciding and narrowing down where I wanted to work. In software development, that you can work in almost any industry. And, part of me wanted to run away from education and never look back. And then the other part of me was like, no, you're a career educator. You can use that to your advantage. And so I really had my heart set on McGraw Hill. And I don't know if that was a mistake or not, but that was, other jobs. Sure, I applied to. I just needed a job, right? But I really had my heart set on McGraw Hill. This was the one that I wanted. And so, just given my background as a teacher. So I found an alum who also worked for McGraw Hill, an alum from Turing School of Software and Development. And so, um, because he had the same tech background that I did, and so I wanted to know his path. How did you get your job? Do you like your job? What does your day to day look like? So I found him on, I think, the Slack for Turing School, but I also found him on LinkedIn and I scheduled a coffee chat with him and I sat down and I asked him a ton of questions. And then one of those was, of course, who do I talk to if I want a job? Where do I go? What do I do? And he connected me to the VP of engineering. He gave me his LinkedIn and I reached out to him as well. And this was probably a 3 or 4 month process, but we just went back and forth. And I was probably very annoying with how often I was checking in with him to see, please meet with me, please meet with me. And he's like, I'm busy this week, maybe next week. So then next week I'd check in and just constantly just not be annoying, but just remind him that I'm there and I'm really interested and I really want to talk and I really want to find out. And I think 3 or 4 months after I initially contacted him, I finally was able to, like, I guess, catch him, and he set up a meeting with someone who my current boss now, who was hiring. In the meantime, I had cold applied to McGraw Hill for, I think, 3 or 4 positions and was rejected from those. So my cold applications were going nowhere. So I really was pushing down the networking route and finally landed that call with my now boss, and the rest is history.
I found that for new developers, especially those from non-traditional backgrounds coming from another industry or boot camps, the cold application rarely works. But if you can
Nope.
just have a conversation with a recruiter, I feel like they're able to, progress through the interview process.
I I was getting nowhere with cold applications, and like I said, I was hired by McGraw Hill and was rejected by them as well with my cold applications. So there's just proof right there that the cold applications, at least for new grads, it went nowhere for me.
hmm And I like that you highlighted that the networking process took several months.
Mhm.
It's not like you reached out in one time on LinkedIn and said, "Hello, here's who I am, hire me," and jumped straight into it, right? It was a conversation with an alumni that you then got, I assume, got some sort of referral or some connection. They pointed you in the right direction. And then it was the course of several months of back and forth. You're developing a relationship now that eventually then led to, some opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the advice that whenever I do talk to students that are still in school, I say start early, start now. Be sure that you're getting on this now, even though you're only halfway through school. Just start it right away because you never know how long it'll take. I mean, there was a lot of, I'm busy this week, I'm traveling this week, so then I'm just kind of sitting, waiting around, twiddling my thumbs. At least I was in school still doing something and not jobless, waiting
Hmm.
around for
Hmm.
this to come back to me.
And that gave you the time to get into the opportunity that you're most excited about, right? If you were
Mhm.
3, 4 months post graduation unemployed, you might have been a little bit more desperate and grabbed a job that was not ideal.
Mhm.
But because you started early, you were able to jump in more quickly after graduation.
Yeah, it definitely helped.
And then because you targeted McGraw-Hill, you were able to, in the interview process, pull from your 15 years of experience, right? Whereas if you had targeted another industry, you would essentially be starting over, right?
Mhm.
And not be able to leverage all of the great experience that you have. So I'm sure that helped you stand out as well.
I know this is why I got the job. I did not get the job for my technical skills. I mean, I was asked technical questions and I am competent technically, at least, for junior developer, but there are so many other junior developers out there with the same skills or more skills than I have. It definitely was my passion for education, definitely was the skills that I brought from teaching, and I mean, I think most of our interview we talked about that as opposed to the technical stuff. So I'm certain that's why I got the position and not my technical skills.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you can code anywhere. And really, code is code, a website's a website, no matter what industry you're in. But I feel like half the battle oftentimes is learning the jargon of the industry that you're operating in
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
understanding the workflows of your end users. And since as a teacher, you already use some of their services or are aware of how teachers operate, you can bring that empathy and you bring that understanding to the code that you're developing. So even if
For
your
sure.
technical skills aren't as high as another, you are probably more effective, I would argue.
I
So
would argue that too.
yeah, there you go. I'm sure you're great, Rebecca. Yeah.
For
So is there any parting wisdom or advice as you imagine you're talking to somebody who's currently in their boot camp or currently trying to learn software development? Anything that you would say to them right now as they contemplate the pending job search in front of them?
We talked about this earlier, start early. Definitely building those relationships takes time. But the other piece I would say is be stubborn. Don't be afraid that you're bothering someone. Just be aggressive about it. You have nothing to lose other than, all right, I'm not going to get that job, but it's probably not because you're being stubborn and being, in someone's face. Especially females, I think we tend to worry, think about it a little bit more, like not what, like we double think. We don't want to be too aggressive or look too aggressive or look too, needy or anything like that. But I would just suggest, if you know what you want and you know where you want to work, push for that. You've got nothing to lose. And even if you get the rejection from, like, the email rejection from your cold application, keep going, keep pushing. It will happen.
Yep, the conversation's not over. Ultimately, you are your best advocate. You know what your skills are, you know what your background is, and you know if you are a good fit for the role that you're trying to apply to. So you have to be an advocate for yourself and make it happen. Rebecca, those
True.
are all great points. Thank you so much for joining. That's all the time we have for. We will catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Junior Jobs Podcast. We hope you found today's interview helpful as you navigate your own job search in tech. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe, as that helps us reach more developers in need. And don't forget to check the show notes for details on today's sponsor and other job search services that we provide. Thanks for listening and have a great day.